Hello and welcome. I am Matt Roddy, and this is the Greater Prescott podcast, where we talk about, you guessed it, all things Greater Prescott. Today, I want to introduce you to my guest, Kellie Worthen. Kellie, thank you so much for being on the podcast with me.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
I am super excited too because Kellie, and I have not been able to say this, number one, you're the 21st episode, but in the first 20 episodes, you're my first podcaster, my fellow podcaster.
Oh, cool. There we go.
So we're going to talk more about that as we get into it. I'm super excited for you guys to get to know Kellie. She's what's the little tagline you use?
I say I'm a multi-passionate entrepreneur.
Yes, exactly. So we're going to dig into all those fun things, and you guys are going to get to, I think, really love Kellie and get to see where her strengths are and things like that. So again, thank you for your time.
Yes.
This is kind of the day where you pack in a bunch of stuff. So I'm super excited.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to support you and a fellow podcaster.
Absolutely. Let's kick it off. Give people some context. Who you are, where born and raised, what'd you do when you were a kid? I always want people to kind of just get a sense of what she was like when she was a kid.
Oh, cool. So I'm Kellie. I'm actually a twin.
Okay.
I have a twin brother, and he and an older sister. They're both in the service.
Oh,
so that's pretty cool. So I was born in Phoenix. I was super premature, and so I had to be born down there, but I have lived here my whole life. I would say I'm definitely a Prescott native, and I'm very proud of that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's not many of you that are native.
I know, yeah. And it was hard growing up because, you go through middle school and grade school and that type of thing. And then once you get to high school, everyone's like, well, I'm going to go to this college out of state. Yeah. And I was like, well, I'm just fine, chilling here. I'm pretty comfortable.
Yeah.
And I just have a lot of family here. And so that's kind of where I started going to Yavapai College.
Okay.
And then I did ASU online. And then I've worked everywhere, from mom and pop shops to now for my stepdad's company. And then I just kind of started my own thing. So, yeah.
All right. That's the short and skinny. Let's hit the rewind button. What'd you do when you were a kid? You said you grew up in Chino. Is that right?
So I have grown up in Prescott. So I live in Chino currently.
Gotcha.
But it's cool because I've actually lived in every area. I lived in Dewey and Prescott, Prescott Valley with my grandma, and then now in Chino. So it's cool. I'm
awesome.
Well, if I'm going to call myself a native, I might as well live in all the lands.
I think you just checked off all the boxes.
I know.
That's cool.
But yeah, so growing up, we were really outdoorsy kids.
Good.
Which I think is lost a lot in today's society.
Definitely.
Everyone's stuck behind a screen. Mm-hmm. And it was fun. My mom was really into filming home videos. So that's cool now to look back on and to keep that piece of your past and how you interacted with your siblings, growing up. And it was fun having a twin because everyone says well, did you guys fight all the time? Yeah. And I'm like, no, it's your best friend,
best
you know?
Friend. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And being a boy was fun because you never fought over clothes and
that's true. And even toys a little bit.
But I would say I've always been kind of a nerd because my sister and I were super into the Sims computer games.
Yeah.
And I still play them to this day.
Awesome.
And they're so much fun, but we were into that and Brat dolls, and my brother had G.I. Joes, and he would always come in with his big tank cars and attach it to our dollhouse and tear the whole thing down. But it was fun. That's how we all got along and rode our bikes around and just hung out. We were just all over the place.
Where in Prescott did you grow up?
So that was more so out in Dewey. We lived in the Prescott Country Club.
Yep.
And it was kind of hard because in high school, the commute all the way into town and then all the way back home, it was a lot. It was fun when my older sister started to drive because then it was just kids trip to school every day. But we were always late. I have never been on time in my entire life. Those kids that get the awards, the free car at the end of the year for having perfect attendance. Yeah. That was never
You're
us.
the exact opposite.
Totally opposite.
That's hilarious.
But it was fun. It was cool.
Have you kayaked all the lakes? Have you done a bit of hiking?
Yeah.
When you say outdoorsy, What does that include?
Yeah, so we mostly when we were little, it was like backyard stuff, and we'd
Yep.
go camping a lot,
Oh,
which was
good.
fun.
Yeah.
Every year we'd always have like a San Diego trip that we would go
Yeah.
on, and that was cool. But as we got older, it was mostly, like kayaking all the lakes, paddle boarding,
Yep.
hiking Thumb Butte. That's a tough hike, by the way.
It is.
It's pretty rough. And then we would go up to Flagstaff, and we actually just got done. I think it was a couple weeks ago we went. We have a family reunion every year up
Okay.
there. And it started back when my grandparents were in college up at NAU there.
Wow.
They started dating, and they would have picnics out at this place, and they would always go back. It's called Little Springs.
Okay.
And they would have their dates out there, and then as soon as they got married and started having kids, they're like, well, we're going to bring the
keep
kids out
going
here.
back.
And then it's just been passed down.
That's
And it's
wonderful.
so cool. And we all go out there, play kickball, bring food, and
Yep.
that type of thing. So I love traditions like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So as the cousins get older, I'm trying to round everyone up, and I'm like, you guys, you know that this is going to be passed down to us, and we're going to have to
Yep.
keep it going. So,
Yeah.
but I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Do you have a favorite activity when it comes to that paddleboard, kayak?
I like
Now-
paddleboarding because it's challenging. It's, you're used to sitting in a boat and rowing, but this one you're actually standing up and having
Yes.
a row. So it's a lot of leg and core engagement.
Definitely.
And you get exhausted fast.
bet.
So you have to know like when to exert your energy, when to sit down,
Yeah.
It's okay to fall off sometimes and cool yourself off.
Good point. It looks like kayaking looks like a cakewalk compared to paddleboard.
Yeah.
I haven't done either.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah, it's fun. And you definitely want to be sure that you're paying attention to the weather because there's times where you can go out and kayak all day long and the wind you wouldn't even know is a thing. But paddleboarding, it's like trudging through the waters, like the
Totally.
waves. And you have a higher likely chance of falling off when
Yes.
it's windy and you're paddleboarding.
Yeah,
But
interesting.
yeah, so it's still fun.
Yeah, absolutely. So you already have said a couple of things that are going to play an important role in more of what you tell. You enjoyed sim games. You were just a little nerd. You describe yourself as nerdy.
Yeah.
Those types of things are going to come back to
Yeah.
sort of form who you are. And that's always what I love learning about people.
Yeah.
It's like, what did you do when you were a kid? Because that's partially or some of the reasons that you do what you do now.
Yeah, right.
So that's cool.
It is interesting how it all plays in together.
Yes, it absolutely is.
Yeah.
So for college, did you do 2 years at Yavapai essentially, or you kind of get your associates?
Yeah, so I graduated from Prescott High School
Okay.
and I went to Yavapai College and I did the standard 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
but then it started and I lived in the dorms there too. So that was cool to experience,
I didn't know they had dorms.
Yeah, and that's what everyone says. They're like, we didn't even know that
Yeah.
Yavapai, a community college, had dorms.
Yeah.
And we were in the super old dorms my first year.
Okay.
And it was fun because you still met people from all over the world. Like they came for soccer and volleyball
Yes.
and baseball. And it was cool because growing up here, you still got that like worldly experience that
Yes.
everyone says that you need to have at a university. And it's like you get it here in your hometown.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't know that. And it's half the
Interesting.
price.
I was going to say it's a fraction of the
Yeah.
cost.
So,
Yeah.
and everyone's like, well, why did you stay in the dorms if you could just live at your parents' house? It's like because I wanted that experience and
Right.
it was offered, so I
Yeah.
took it.
Yeah.
But so I went to Yavapai College and I did 2 years, and I also interned with a company called Overland Journal.
Yes.
And so throughout my studies there, I always knew that I was just a really creative person.
Okay.
And so I started doing photography.
Okay.
And that was when we were allowed to do like the old school like film style
Wow.
where you got
You're
to go
old,
in.
Kelly.
Yeah, I know. My birthday's actually next Wednesday.
Oh, that's funny.
But so it was cool because the teachers being in a smaller community, I feel like they care more, like it's more personalized.
It's more personal.
Which is how I learn. I love
Yeah.
that. And so I did photography, and it was film and darkroom, which was cool to actually, you learn all of the principles and elements
Yes.
of it. It's like you have your aperture and your contrast, and now being able to edit digitally is insane. It's so easy, but actually getting your hands in the darkroom and mixing the developer back and forth and being like, okay, if I do this too long, it's going to be oversaturated or
Right.
over contrasted. And it was just cool. It was
Yeah.
hands-on photography. And I feel like learning that way helped me understand digital better.
Good point.
Yeah. And a lot of people still stick with film today. It's just not my thing. I think it's a little bit too much, and I feel like I have conformed with the times,
Yeah.
and I'm a
No, I hear
total
ya.
digital junkie. But so I did that. I did a little bit of ceramic work,
Oh, fun.
and that was a blast. I remember my first piece I ever made. It was a little vase. It was so ugly. But it actually made it into the art show, and someone bought it like crazy.
Cha-ching.
I know. I was like, "What? That
What
was
are you
my
doing
first
sitting here,
piece."
Kelly? Come on.
So that was fun.
Yeah.
And then I dabbled a little bit in web design.
Yep.
So yeah, I've just always loved the digital arts. And
Okay.
same thing I did. I did a lot of videography.
Yeah.
And that has helped me now with my podcast, learning how to
Definitely.
edit sound.
Yep.
So I feel like all of this has been for a reason. And
Yes.
it's pretty cool how, like you said, it all ties in together.
Yep.
Yeah.
I listened to a podcast called 2 p.m. I'm going to forward you
Okay.
There's one podcast specifically that has kind of transformed the way I'm doing things. But one of the reasons that 2 p.m. exists is because they believe that to excel in the digital age, you have to be really good at a lot of things, because there's just so many components to it. And you start to speak to photography, audio,
Right.
video,
Yeah.
sound, and just all of these graphic design, and
Yeah.
it can be very overwhelming.
Right.
When you
Yeah. And it's
get
nice
going.
because when you think about like starting a business, a lot of people have to hire that out.
Yes.
And it's expensive.
Oh, it's
like
awfully
that
expensive.
could make or break a business in their
100%.
first year. But you need it, you
Yeah.
know? And so I've been really blessed to be like, well, thank God for my
can
student
do-
loans
yeah.
because
Right.
I have the skills to push me further.
Exactly.
And so I'm grateful for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after 2 years at Yavapai, actually, let's talk a little bit about Overland Journal.
Yeah.
They're kind of outdoors, in 4x4 type.
Yeah, so they're mostly like off-road adventure
Yes.
type stuff, and they were originally out of California.
Okay.
And the owner, Scott Brady, he moved here to Prescott, and they kind of established here, which is huge. I mean, we're right next to Sedona and Flagstaff, and you know,
Yes.
we're on the border of Colorado. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot
It
of
speaks to
people.
the diversity within a few hours.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So I was actually working at a coffee shop, and they would always come in and get their coffee.
Yep.
And we got to talking, and I was like, well, I'm in photography, and
Yeah.
for one of my final classes, you have to have an internship.
Okay.
And so I got with I think he was in PR at the time. I don't think he's with the company anymore, but his name's Chris Cords.
All right.
And I reached out to him, and he got in touch with my professor, and we actually formed our own like individual contract.
Yeah.
And I believe it was for a semester.
Okay.
But it was like a job. You had to show up, have these hours, but it was amazing because the other photographer, I think he travels the world now, but his name was Christophe Noel.
Okay.
And he was kind of like my mentor, and it was so much
Awesome.
fun.
Oh my gosh,
because-
you're so lucky.
Yeah, so basically they would give me a ton of product to
Okay.
shoot. It was like Frost River bags and I can't remember the name of the knife, but like Yeti coolers, like a ton of cool stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is rad. Like I get to go out. They're trusting me with this expensive product
Yes.
and I get to take pictures for them.
Yep.
So we would go out like way up, like Spruce Mountain by the
Yes.
lookout.
Oh, it's so beautiful.
And I remember they were doing a controlled burn, and I had to take a picture of this Frost River bag, and it was a cool like canvas bag made out of Minnesota.
Okay.
And I was like, well, I'm gonna put it up on this rock here, and there's a fire burning in the background, and it was sweet. Like it came out so cool,
Yay.
and it actually got published in one of their international magazines.
Oh, yeah.
So now I'm a published photographer.
Holy cow, that's so cool.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
it was fun. And once I did that, it really kind of opened my eyes. Like, I kind of have, like, what it takes, I guess,
Yes.
what people say. And
Mhm.
so then I really, really got into, have you heard of Chris Burkard?
No.
He's amazing.
Okay.
He is out of San Luis Obispo, and he's kind of like a landscape travel photographer as
Okay.
well. But he's super well known. But back when I was interning, I actually was applying to go to Cal Poly in
Yep.
San Luis Obispo. that was like my dream. That school is incredibly hard to get into.
Slow is
It
it's so
is
dreamy.
insane. I know.
It's hilarious.
I'm actually going to California next week to see my best friend.
Good.
And when we were out there, she's in Ventura. So
Okay.
we drove up to San Luis Obispo to tour the campus. It was beautiful.
Oh,
so expensive.
So-
But I had heard that a couple guys that went there ended up working for Chris.
Okay.
So I actually reached out to him and we were kind of talking, you know, like, can I come take a class or that type of thing? And it ended up not working out just because life happens.
Yes.
And I ended up starting my job and doing more schooling and that type of thing. But I always feel like everyone always thinks I'm from California, which is funny. I think just because I'm really like down to earth and outdoorsy and kind of
Okay.
like into photography. I don't know why they think that
Okay.
that comes from California. But it was cool. Like that was always my dream to like get out and go be a photographer and travel the world and that type
my
of thing.
gosh.
But I'm super grateful for those experiences
Yes.
in college and just to have met those people. And we did every year they had like an expedition that Overland would be a vendor at. And so during my internship, I actually got to go and stay with them up in a cabin in Flagstaff.
Okay.
It was freezing.
Yeah.
But I was the photographer for it, and it was cool because they had like all the nice Range Rovers going and that type
yeah.
of thing. My dream car is a Mercedes G-Wagon, by the
Okay.
way. And they had one of those.
Yep.
But it was fun. It was cool to just meet people from all over the world, you know, those
Yes.
huge Unimog
Yes.
machines. Like, those are crazy.
Yeah.
So it was fun. It was cool to just have that worldly experience and
Exactly.
to have found that in my small town. And that's why I am so keen on telling people, like, you do not need to go into massive amounts of debt
Right.
to go to a university to have that experience.
Yep.
Like, if you want it enough and if you look for it, you can find that where you're at.
Totally.
So I'm super grateful that I decided to stay and
Yeah.
have those experiences and make something. So
Man, I'm jealous.
Yeah.
That overland experience sounds awesome.
it was fun. It was really, really cool.
I'm a car guy, and I'm not necessarily an off-road guy, although moving up here, I'm becoming more of an off-roader. But I pick up
Yeah.
an overland journal, and I'm like, this looks amazing. Like, how do these guys get to do this?
I
And
know.
what a cool thing. So they're based out of Prescott?
Yeah, so now
Okay.
they're here. I haven't talked to them in a while, but
Yeah.
I still follow their
Aw,
Instagram
that's
account and stuff like that.
awesome.
But yeah, they're great people. It was awesome
Good.
to work for them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then after Overland and after Yavapai,
Yeah.
you said you did online ASU?
Yeah, so
Okay.
then I started working for my stepdad at his company.
That's right.
And I was sitting there, and so I did reception work for the first year. The second year, I went up to accounting, and that was not for me.
Okay.
But I'm glad I did it. You know, I got to learn a new skill. And then I went back downstairs as more so like the admin assistant, and
Okay.
I've been down there ever since.
All right.
Well, I started to have a lot of downtime, and I was doing ASU online. I was studying GIT, and then I wanted to do some
What's that?
business. It was graphic information technology. So I was doing that, but then I was like, I could take the same classes here for cheaper. And I already had some student loans from Yavapai.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm not looking to get in all sorts of debt when I really don't know what I want to do
Yep.
yet. So I dropped out of ASU and I went back to Yavapai and I just took a couple business classes. So through that, that's kind of where, when I was done with my schooling, I was like, well, I want to do something with my knowledge now, and I have the downtime to do it. So that's kind of when I started researching all my business ideas
Okay.
that are what they are now.
Yeah.
So that's been fun.
So back in the day, what were some of the business ideas?
So I had always wanted to work in retail, which is
Okay.
weird because I've never actually had a job in retail, but I've always wanted to own something in retail.
Like,
I've always wanted to open up like a kids' clothing store.
okay. Yeah.
I know that's super random, but I don't know. I just feel like I have a knack for the process of things,
Yeah.
like the business plans and how to make something look pretty
Yeah.
and that type of thing. But I was like, well, that's unrealistic because
Okay.
that's a lot of money. I still have this job. I have debt,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. Like I was
Yeah.
engaged at the time and, you know, didn't know, are we going to stay here? Are we going to move?
Right.
Like that type of thing. So that was kind of a pipe dream. But that's kind of when I was talking to my husband about it. And he's like, well, babe, I just bought you your dream camera and you don't do anything with it. And I was like, you're right. Like, I need to do something. And he's like, you love photography. Like, why don't you research like small businesses for entrepreneurs that are in photography that you could do sitting at your desk?
Yeah.
So I was like, well, okay. So my mom is a realtor in town, and her and I kind of were looking on Zillow and that type of thing.
Yeah.
And she was like, look at how horrible these listing photos are.
yeah.
And I was like, these are really bad. Like, it looks like someone just took it with their phone and slapped it up there, because there's a difference between architectural and interior photography and real estate photography. You know, real estate is kind of hard because they want their pictures right away, you know, and they want them the next day and unedited and that type of thing. So I started doing just like my own house and my mom's house for fun, just to kind of get the feel.
Totally.
Like throughout college, I did maternity and a few like little weddings and that type of thing. And it wasn't my thing, you know, like for a lot of people that lights them up. Like
Absolutely.
getting that interaction, that human interaction. But for me, I'm way too of a perfectionist to have that stress. Like knowing that you
And when
have
you're
to
taking
get
pictures of a baby.
yeah, or like the
good
bride
luck.
and groom, like kissing at their wedding for the first time. Like that puts me in an anxiety attack. Like I could not do that.
Yeah. Just thinking about it. Me too.
I know. I'm like, oh, no way.
Yeah. That's the money maker. And if you miss it, you're done.
I know. Like fired, you're out.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to get into that. I also felt it was like really oversaturated as well. And you do, you know, starting out, you're like, well, I'm never going to be that good. So why even try? And so that kind of steered me into doing real estate photography.
Okay.
So I started doing real estate photography, and then I realized it's not really where I'm at. Like with my editing style, like I take 14 business days to get their photos back. So if a realtor wanted to use me, they would have to know that and book in advance.
Correct.
Which the people that want to use me do, and
Of
it's
course.
great. But I'm not that person that's like, hey, need pictures tomorrow.
Tomorrow,
It's
right.
like, well, I'm not your girl then. And I think it's because of the amount of pride that I have in my editing, because I wanted to bring something that's natural. And I feel like nowadays the photography world, especially real estate, is very distorted. I feel like a lot of people alter things in the way that they shouldn't, where this is someone's potential future home. And if they show up and the garage looked in your photo 4 times bigger than it is, they're going to be upset, you know? And just, I think people over edit and that type of thing. So I started doing a few of my aunt's Airbnbs for fun. And then that kind of just opened the gateway. Like, fortunately, being in a small town, if your family's here and they've been in business, like they know a lot of people.
Yes,
and
helps.
especially my aunt is a contractor here, and she started in the Valley, and she knows a ton of people.
Okay.
So she kind of threw my name around, and
Nice.
that turned into paying clients and that type of thing. And I was like,
Yes.
holy cow. So I was like, well, this could potentially be a little business. So I went to my friend Gianna Maiolo, and she is amazing, and she helped me kind of get the legalities under control. She designed my business
By the way,
cards, and
Kelly shares all this on her podcast. So I'm going to let, I've heard it. I'm going to let her say it, but she'll talk more about the podcast. You need to subscribe so you can learn all this info that kind of really helps, again, set the context. It's important.
So it was fun. And she helped me kind of really like nail things down. Because I was like, this is a small town. I don't want to get my name out there of like, well, she takes good pictures, but she's not legit.
Correct.
You know, so I wanted to be professional, and I also was planning for the future. Like, this is something that I want to be my full-time job someday, and I need to treat it like that. You know, they say if you treat it like a hobby, it's always going to be a hobby.
Correct.
And that's why when I went to talk to my stepdad about my hours, I was like, I need one creative day. Like, I don't see myself being here forever. I've already been there 4 years. And now being married and stuff like that, it's like we are planning a future, you know? So that's when, fortunately, I have the downtime I do at work to take a project back there and edit my photos when I have nothing else to do and do it on the weekends and that type of thing. So it's been it'll be 2 years in May that I've had District 86 open. And I've worked with amazing custom home builders, realtors, interior designers, and it's mostly turned into now a marketing company that specializes in interior photography.
Okay.
And it's more so for the people that are doing high-end work that want to capture their creative side. You know, the interior designers say, hey, capture this space, make it look great,
Yes.
so I can put it in my portfolio.
Yep.
Or, you know, the custom home builders that want to put it online, that this is how I designed a living room. Or,
Correct.
you know, so
Yeah, the nuances when
Yeah.
it comes to these types of things. Not
Right.
It's not your generic, hey, I'm listing a house.
Yep.
I need 45 photos.
Yep. Yeah, and I feel like that, I mean, the real estate market, being a realtor here, is insanely saturated. And there's a couple real estate photographers in town, but I feel like I really specialize in capturing the space in its natural way.
Right.
You know, I'm all about natural light. I don't over edit. And the main reason why I actually started was because color imbalance.
Okay.
I was like, people are going to see this picture and think that those cabinets are actually orange when they're actually a really pretty wood. And I was like, I need to edit that back.
Exactly.
You know, a lot of people think that when you edit, you need to overcorrect and make something not what it is. But you actually, sometimes your camera can make things look worse.
Totally.
To where you actually need to backscale. So that's where I drop the saturations and I fix the orientation and that type of thing. And so I love it. That's why I say like I'm a super like OCD nerd.
Yeah.
I just am really detail oriented, and I feel like that needs to be represented in a natural way, especially if someone is hiring me to basically put their portfolio together.
Exactly.
It's like, well, I want to make them look good so they succeed as well.
Right.
And so this year I added website design
Okay.
to District 86.
Okay.
And that kind of came because in high school, or in college, I dabbled in it a little bit.
Yes.
And that has been a godsend for my business. I mean, if I think about how many times I've changed my website, and if I had to pay, put that out there for someone else to do,
It's another one of those things as a
Yeah.
business owner.
right?
Yeah.
It's like that would have broke me because
yeah.
it's expensive.
It's awful.
Yeah. And so now, in knowing the value behind that, I offer my website design services way less expensive because that is one of the number one things that you need when you're starting a business to represent yourself.
Yeah.
Like if you Google business and they don't have a website, it's like, well,
You wonder.
who are you?
I know.
You know? So that's why I
Yep.
did website design.
Okay.
And I do like a cover page and then a full build out.
Okay.
But it's been cool. It's been really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you start to learn as a business owner, there's just so many facets to it.
Right.
And having to pay someone for every single step,
Yeah.
it just breaks you really early.
Well, and it's overwhelming,
And
you know?
it is.
Yeah, because it's like, well, what do I need next? And I hate it. I mean, we all get caught up
Yeah.
in comparing, like,
Of course.
well, I want to
It's one
look
of our
this
biggest
way,
challenges.
but you need all this stuff, but I can't afford it.
Right.
Then learn it.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why the online educator space is huge.
Oh, it's
It's
amazing.
just like the amount of time, like, the world is actually full of awesome people. Like,
Amen.
people that know their stuff that can't afford it. Like, I love the underdog stories.
Could not agree more.
Yeah, like, well, I couldn't do it, so now I'm a pro at it, and now I
Yeah.
teach other people how to do it. Like,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, here's an idea actually for you / me is having, I don't know if it's a live course or something online where people like high schoolers or basically someone of any age could come to and say, you know, I'm thinking of starting a business.
Yeah.
What would you say only
Right.
2 years in are the things that I should start to, like, what do I need? You know, what's
Right.
this priority list of things?
Yeah.
Because there's just a lot of things that people will try to sell someone trying to start a business that
Yeah.
they just don't need.
Right.
So anyways, just kind of this, they just
Yeah.
need some help, frankly,
Yeah.
from someone who's been there, done that,
Right.
especially in 2020.
Yep.
And it's because different than in 2000.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of why now because I honestly, to be completely honest,
We don't lie on this program, Kelly, so you have to be.
I incorporated website design into my business this year because in photography, you are not busy unless your client is busy. And real estate and all that thing, building houses and that type of thing, there's an up and a down,
Big
you know?
time.
And I was like, well, thank God I still have my full-time job because this is supporting my business. And I put website design in there for something that would keep me sustainable throughout the year. And then COVID hit. So that really shook everyone's world. And now having downtime and being able to think and really process back to what, like, my why behind my business, like, what do I want to do to catapult this into the new year and not be so stressed out when there are slow seasons. So that is actually why I am in the process of creating my own online digital course.
Okay.
So I am going to put a course out there. I'm working on some names, but I'm thinking it's going to be called The Modern Method to Interior Photography. And I'm going to actually teach people how to photograph interiors. Because I am a part of a Facebook group right now. And there's people on there, I mean, realtors, other photographers, interior designers, like I said, that can't afford a professional photographer, that are like, I just want to learn it for myself, even on my cell phone.
Totally.
You know, so I'm going to teach it mainly for the DSLR cameras, but it's also going to be, I'm going to have a module in there on how to do this on your smartphone, like the cheapest way possible. So I'm thinking of launching in February, but I'm so excited.
Yay.
Yeah, it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
It's going to be cool.
To the people, until you start something, you never really know what's going to happen and where it's going to go. And so you would have never guessed that, say, 2 years ago, you'd be starting an online course. But when you're in it, when you're talking to people, when you're seeing a need, it's like, man, stuff just starts happening. And so my big thing for someone wanting to start out is just start. Like, just stinking do something. Because you can theorize. We're all probably so good at that without actually doing something.
And for me, I'm such a dreamer that I was like, I could sit here all day long and dream about stuff that I feel like I'm not yet confident for. And that's fine. But I can say, now that I have been in my own business and started my own podcast, like, I never would like to hear my voice. Like, and public speaking, like, there is things that being in business and having a podcast and that type of thing teaches you that you can't pay for. Like,
amen.
You have to experience it to learn it. And I feel like now it's just cool. Like, I feel like God has put certain things in my life to be like, okay, Kelly, I know you're super shy right now and you feel lost and you don't know what you're doing, but I'm going to have you start this business and you're going to grow and grow and grow. And then you're going to be confident and start a podcast. And then that's going to, you know, and it's cool. Like, it's a learning curve. And I feel like our society now is such a, I need it now. And I need to be this now. And it's like, you can't, like, I'm sorry.
I know,
like,
right?
I don't know what else to tell you. Like,
there's nothing else to tell you.
Like,
you have to start, you have to experience it, and then you have to go from there. And then you have to pivot and learn and grow. And
you cannot pay for success
over and over.
At all. Like, you have to do the work. And that's what sets apart the people that piddle out and the people that continue on, you know? And it's not like a cocky thing at all. It's knowing your worth and pursuing that and putting in the time and the effort and accompanying that with just being a real person, having a passion. Like, it's crazy. That's why, like, and I wish I just knew who I am now back in high school.
We all do. I mean, because
I was like, Kelly, like, chill out. Like, I just want to shake you. Like, you don't need to have life figured out. Like, I still don't. And experience will teach you that. Like, you need to know that, like, it's okay to be uncertain and it's okay to do things and fail. And that's why I always tell you, like, done is better than perfect.
I wrote it down.
Yes.
That was one of the. So actually, here's a few things, because I think this is actually a good segue. We'll just continue. These are a few things that I've heard from your podcast. Like, done is better than perfect. There is no fail. Vulnerability and fear are consistent in people who succeed, and get uncomfortable and be vulnerable. Kind of speak to it. Well, so the done is better than perfect. I actually learned that from Jenna Kutcher's podcast. She is awesome. But it's just, I like to speak on things that I struggled with, that I can see clearly now. And I'm like, wow,
Like, no one else could have taught me this.
Yeah.
And you can't learn this online.
Nope.
Like, there's self-help things out there and stuff like that, but it's like you literally have to experience it to get comfortable with it, because it's scary. And people think that there's this cap to like being uncomfortable and being vulnerable. Like,
Oh, I wish.
it's like, well, I've been it so much in the past, like, can't we just be done already? And it's like, no, like, if you want to be consistently successful and thrive in whatever you're doing, you're going to be uncomfortable and be afraid every single day, because it changes and it's revolving. And like, you have to be comfortable with change.
Totally.
And you can only control so much, but it's like, you need to know how to like bend and warp and that type of thing. So I just laugh because it's like, I stressed out so bad about that because I hate being out of my comfort zone. I hate it. That's why I don't like roller coasters. Like, I hate that feeling of not being in control. But it's just, I don't know, like, I can't emphasize enough that you will figure it out.
Yeah.
Like, it's normal to be scared. Talk to people that have been through it.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, as long as you enjoy what you're doing, all these other lessons and stuff will come, and you will eventually just flow into it, and it will be a part of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well said. I think done is better than perfect is just a huge, all-important saying, especially for someone who's wanting to start something.
Right.
You don't even have to be willing to start a business or wanting to. Just start something.
That was my biggest struggle in the beginning, because I was like, well, if I'm going to be, you know, my clients are going to be high-end people, I need to look high-end, you know, like my work, my presence, my online presence needs to look like, you know, like, look how what you want to attract. And so that's where I really struggled with, well, it doesn't look that way, so I'm not good enough. I need to just quit and give up. And it's like, no, like, put it out there, what you know, and grow and move and change. Like, there's so many times that I've changed my website, even my contract, like, bad things will happen to you, and you learn from them and you get better. And I think it's awesome. Like, I love it.
Agreed,
it's great.
right?
Yeah. And it's comforting to know that you're still being challenged.
Yes.
You know, like, when you do something and you don't know the outcome and you're afraid and you're vulnerable, it's like, well, that's life.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And you need to go through it if you want to continue.
That's it.
So,
Yeah.
So
there's people who I'm contacting to be on the podcast that I'm nervous as heck too. Like, why? I mean, it's just silly. I've done it how many times now? But yeah, we all go through it. It doesn't stop.
Yeah.
But it does get typically a little easier the more you do it.
Right.
Typically.
Yeah. And even, I mean, my podcast I started only a couple of months ago, and I was like, well, my intro is horrible. Like, and I can never get the sound right. Like, it's always too loud or too quiet. And it takes time. Like, I'm not going to be this multi-million-dollar podcast host. Like, no. Like, I literally have been doing it for maybe 5 months. Like, it takes practice. So, and it's fun. Like, I think it's cool.
So actually, speak to it. Tell the people the name of the podcast so that we can talk about your podcast.
So my podcast I started is called the Makers Forum Podcast, and it is a podcast for creatives, entrepreneurs, and I say real talks, but I'm finding that it's mostly like my creative rant.
Okay. Like, you're open, honest.
Yeah, and it's very
from the heart.
Yeah, it's very to the point. It's not like something that's super scripted, and it's not just for my small town of Prescott, like my hometown. I've had people on from, you know, the upper Northwest, like Pacific Northwest, and it's fun to get to know how people kind of like got started in their niches and stuff like that. So it's mostly just a place to come, burn off your creative energy, like talk to other people. And then my solo shows are just kind of, you know, my story, like my backstory and lessons and business lessons. And, you know,
you talked about marketing on one of them.
Just entrepreneurship and that type of thing. But it wasn't something that I started to profit from. It was something that I was like, I feel like this is a need and I need to speak to it. And I feel like I have a lot to say. And I'm not a professional. Like, I'm not someone.
I'm not either.
Right. And it's just cool to be like, hey, like, I'm still an underdog, but I have a lot to say. So, like, please listen. But so it's called the Makers Forum Podcast, and I'm on Instagram and my website too. So
Yeah, and you can find the podcast on all the major platforms.
yeah, yeah.
What made you actually pull the trigger and start the podcast? Because I've had some people contact me interested in starting a podcast.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to get from, again, this theorizing to this actual, oh my gosh, I'm actually going to record and then I'm actually going to edit and then I'm actually going to upload it.
I know. So for me, I am a simple person, and I was like, I just want to start this. And I pushed it back. It was like a month later and a month later, and I still didn't do it. And I was like, Kelly, like, quit. Like, just do it. Like, good God. So I actually took Jenna Kutcher. She has a course online. It's called the Podcast Lab. I think it's only like $200 something. But I took that, and that helped me a lot. I do feel like the technical side of it is a little outdated, but that may just be because I'm super techie and I know different ways to like go about it. But for me, it was more so I took videography in college, so I knew how to do the audio, and I knew that that was going to be very time consuming, but I knew how to do it. So that's one thing. I know that everyone gets afraid because they're like, well, who the heck's going to edit this? Because I sure don't know how to. And that's tricky. That's something where you either find someone at a low cost and hire them to help you, outsource it, or work with other people, you and me. We're actively doing it. Like, we could give you tips and pointers and that type of thing.
I love helping people.
Me too. Yeah. I love it. But it's a lot. It's just, find your platform. I use Anchor.
Okay.
And it's super easy.
Yeah.
And there's so much help out there, and even like Anchor's customer service is incredible, and it's just a matter of like doing your research. And I feel like we don't do that enough in society. It's like, I'm going to Google this once and that's my answer. It's like, if you really want to do it and know how to do it right, you're going to have to research for probably a while and then make it your own. Like, there is no right way to do any of this. Like,
I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Because the way I do a podcast is different than the way you do a podcast. And that's fine.
Yeah.
It works for me and it works for you.
Yep.
And it works for our listeners.
Yep. Yeah. It's a lot. People get afraid of the techie side of things, and it doesn't need to be scary. There's so much that you could do to learn stuff. And that's like, in one of my podcast episodes, I was just harping on, if you're one of those people being asked by someone else how to do something, get off your high horse and help that person. Like, you were there too, It drives me nuts.
I agree.
But yeah, it's fun. I think once you get past learning actually how to approach it and just asking for help, I think those people that want to start a podcast, you can, it's very doable.
Yeah. You just got to put in some time and put in some effort. There's plenty of YouTube videos out there to get you a wealth of information.
Right.
So you can at least pack it together and go, okay, well, I still need a couple questions specific to my situation. And I'm more than happy to help people.
Yeah. And there's stuff that even paying for a class, there's stuff that I found that was like, well, okay, like, that's the, like the cement and the brick to it, but I don't like that. Like, but I didn't just sit there and give up. I researched how to do this, but in this way, and that's how you get from point A to point B. And you fix it and you mold it and you tweak it. It's like clay. It's like, figure it out.
That's it. Yeah. And it's never perfect.
No, and we're still, you and I, we're both still learning. Like, this is still new, you know? So it's cool. It's fun.
Good. Are you having fun doing it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And that was one of the things, I mean, the interview episodes are a little bit more work, but those are the episodes that mean the most to me because you're collaborating, you're helping someone get their stuff out. So, like, those, I'll put on, like, I'll light my favorite candle and I'll like just sit there and edit. And it's funny because as I'm listening to it back, it's like you're hearing it for the first time as someone who has no idea what it's about. So it's cool. I just really like meeting new people and that type of thing. So I'm having a blast.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. That's probably at the end of the day what I enjoy most is getting to meet new people and learning about your story because it totally explains why the heck you do what you do. And why you really enjoy it. As well. Real quick, you mentioned that you're married.
Yes.
But you didn't mention your husband. How long have you been married? What's your husband's name? Just give us a little.
Yeah, so my husband's name is Chad.
Okay. Hey, Chad.
And it's actually funny because when I was little, my first laptop I ever had, I named it Chad.
Oh, funny. You were a nerd.
I know.
Yeah.
And I just love that name. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that's a good name.
Yeah.
So that was funny that I ended up with the Chad. But he actually works for the city. He's
Okay.
a Prescott police officer.
All right.
And we just celebrated our 1-year anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All
Yeah.
right.
So we just live out in Chino, and we have a kitten and our big dog that we just adopted back
Okay.
in May. He's a Cane Corso. We love him.
He's huge.
He's huge. Yeah. When we went to pick him up, I was like, oh my God, run. Like,
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is not what I signed up for. But I love him. He looks intimidating, but he's such a teddy bear. But yeah, so it's been fun.
Awesome. Well, congratulations
Yeah,
on 1
thank
year.
you.
It gets better.
Yes.
Just, I mean, like 1 year is amazing, and just Emily and I just had our 10th, and
Aww.
it just gets better.
I know.
So,
I told him, I was like, wow, our first year in a pandemic. I'm like, we're doing pretty good.
Yeah, you got this. There's one thing that I wrote down from something I heard in one of your podcasts
Yeah.
that I would also like to speak to. And essentially, this is what I wrote down. Living in a small town and the challenge of going against the grain. Now, I have experienced quite a bit of friction as I come up with new ideas and as I try new things.
Yeah.
I'm 37. I have failed I have failed a lot in life, which is part of the reason why I'm here doing what I'm doing.
Right.
That struck a chord with me because I also experienced the same thing. And it's a really interesting conversation that I don't want to necessarily talk poorly about people, but it is a
Right.
challenge when you step out. Let me share from my experience. When I have stepped out
Yeah.
into something that I want to do, that I think I need to do to grow and learn and kind of get
Right.
to a place where I want to get to,
Yeah.
there's kickback, whether it's family, whether it's friends.
Right.
And it's challenging. It's really, really challenging. And
Yeah.
it's real, frankly, just another excuse to say, I'm not doing it because someone said something.
Right.
And
Yep.
so I'm just curious, you don't have to go into too much depth, but just
Yeah.
this idea of the challenges of stepping out
Yeah.
and kind of going against the grain.
Right.
Because it's hard.
Yeah. And that kind of relates back to when I say, like, there is no fail, because it's scary. And yes, we're a very judgmental world. And people, especially in a small town, when they see you doing something that is either better than them or they had that idea first, that's their problem. Like, to be honest, it's a matter of like surrounding yourself with people that get it, people that support you, and knowing that you could live anywhere in the world and you would have that.
Totally.
You would have people saying, well, I wanted to do that and there's only room for me in this town, so get out, you know? And that's horrible.
Oh, it's awful.
And for me, like, I've lived here my whole life, so I have seen it time and time again.
Yeah.
My mom owned businesses downtown when we were growing up, and it was like dog eat dog. It's like,
I thought we're
why?
family here.
Right. And it's weird. It's a very weird thing that happens, but it comes down to jealousy. It comes down to people thinking that someone's going to be more successful than them, and they might be. Big deal. Have that be fuel to make yourself even better.
Yep.
You know, and reach out to that person and say, hey,
Right.
you're killing it right now. Want to help me out?
Yep.
Like, I don't know why that is such a problem. And it's frustrating. And so that's why I feel like you and I, we love the underdog. Like, we speak to people that are getting started, because it's hard enough to get your business out there, and let alone to have the confidence to back it up.
It's so hard.
And it's, and like, you can't start a business but not have the personality behind it and the face behind it. So instead of bashing on someone as an individual, we need to be supporting that person's business and who they are in that business. Like, don't call people out for, you know, like, being themselves. It's like they're struggling enough to even have their own business, and you're gonna
all struggling in a sense.
So it's just it's heartbreaking.
Yep.
But I do feel like Prescott is a very inviting and welcoming place, but there are those people that don't want to see you succeed.
Yep.
And those aren't the people for you. You just turn a blind eye to it.
And it's like that everywhere.
It is.
It's not our small town.
Yeah,
It's wherever
right.
you go.
And that's why, throughout life, like everyone says, like, you don't have the same friends you had in high school.
Yep.
It's like that continues throughout your life.
Yeah.
Like, some people are for a season,
Yep.
and you don't have to please everybody. Like, do
Right.
it for you. Like, you're not doing it for them. They don't pay your bills, So,
No.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. That's something that I know I have struggled with.
Right.
Is people close to me who
Right.
not been not as supportive as I wish I would have.
Right. There's even
I wish I would have thought.
Yeah. I even have family members that are that very old school way of thinking.
Right.
Like, well, you need to have a full-time job your whole
Of
life.
course.
And, well, that's security, yes. But I'm miserable,
Right.
Yeah. And so it's like, no, I'm going to research it. I'm going to get a backbone and because I want better for myself. And I want better than the old school way of thinking,
Yeah.
And so I feel like that is huge. And I love that Prescott has more entrepreneurs nowadays.
We have a lot.
We do. And I love it. And that's why I love stuff like this, because you get to speak on that and meet new people and say, like, hey, if you never need help, like, slide into my DMs, send me an email. Like, I am such an open person to that. And I hate that when you only see someone's life on social media, they're like, well, that girl thinks she's all that in a bag of chips. I'm not reaching out to her.
Right.
And it's like, that's not true at all, So.
And that's one of the reasons I like this format. Like, what you're seeing is who we are.
Right.
I'm not going to edit it. It's just, we're just going with the flow.
Yep.
I think there's so much opportunity no matter where you live or what you're doing. And at the end of the day, people get so hung up on this idea of competition, and competition can be good, absolutely.
Right.
But when it's this dog eat dog that I am going to beat you, Kelly, that whoa, hold on a minute. You might grow a bigger business than me or have more reach or whatever.
Yeah.
There's so much opportunity, everyone. Just learn, start learning about whatever it is that you enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And there's tons of opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's people that, won't support you and, well, that's lame, or she's trying to be like this person. It's like, who cares? As long as I like it.
It's hard to not care. I
happy.
know. No, I hear you.
I know. And it is hard not to care.
Yeah, I know.
Because we have such big hearts for everybody that we
do.
think, it's very egocentric. We think everyone else is going to think how we think.
Yep.
And people aren't like that. And they're at their own stage, and we need to meet them where they're at and whatever. So, yeah. But I'm all about supporting people and that type of thing.
Me too. I have had a few people contact me through my Instagram for the podcast asking questions.
Cool.
And I've had one lady who is now, because of, I love encouraging people. And based on me encouraging her, she's trying to schedule 3 guests to start her own podcast.
Oh, yay.
I could not be more, like, literally that makes me more excited than almost everything in life. It's like, here's one person who wanted to start something, but she didn't know. She had done a ton of research, but at some point she just kind of got to a point where she needed some more help. So we met, talked her through some things, and it's like, so now she's trying to schedule her first 3 podcasts. I'm like, you go, girl.
That is awesome.
Right?
I love that. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's really fun.
I just like helping people.
Yeah, me too.
Get started.
I love it.
Yeah. All right. So we covered a lot of ground.
Yes.
Anything that you can think of that we missed that you would like the people to know about as we near the end?
Not really, but I want to say I have these here. So my sister, Katie, she lives in Harriman, Utah. I hope I'm saying that right. And she actually just started her own little business. She makes small batch handmade polymer clay earrings. Okay. And she is so good at it. But I brought a pair here that she made me. And she does either gold or silver hardware. Okay. But I've watched her, and she makes all of this by hand and shapes it. Wow. And then she bakes it. And then when it comes out, she does all the drilling and stuff for the hardware and puts them together. But she is making shapes that are incredible. Okay. I heard that she's probably going to start doing necklaces and more stuff. Like little girl like hair clips and stuff like that. So super cool. So it's called Midday Clay. And like I said, she's out of Utah, but
Okay.
she's on Instagram and has a website right now.
That's Katie?
So, yeah. So
Katie, great job.
yeah.
Keep up the good work. That's
yeah,
so
it's,
exciting.
Katie Bertosh. So
Okay.
she's
I'll
doing
put
great.
I'll put as well as your information.
Yeah.
I'll add hers
Yeah,
to
so
it
I'm
as
so
well,
proud of her. I'm like,
Yes.
yay. We have
Yeah.
another entrepreneur in the family.
Exactly. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah, so I'm
Yeah.
excited. I love it.
Yeah.
She's doing great.
And once you start with a product, you quickly learn if there's space for another product in another, like,
Right.
you know, whether it's a necklace or things for
And
little
that's some of the
girls.
things like she struggled with. She's like, Kelly, like, do I have to make the same earring over and over again? I'm like, if that's what the people want, you might.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know, like, I was like, Katie, stop stressing about it. Like, done is better than perfect.
That's it.
I'm like,
You have to
put
start.
designs out there,
Yep.
see which ones people are attracted to, and go from there.
Yep.
You know, you're not going to learn until you do it.
Right.
So it's kind of fun, like coaching her.
Right? It's not like you're that much ahead of her, but you're
Right.
a step or two ahead, and you can absolutely offer some help and support.
Yeah. So it's been fun.
Cool.
So yeah, go check her out.
Okay. 2 short things to wrap up. I'm going to ask, this is the rapid fire questions section. I have 7 questions that I want you to answer.
That's my lucky number.
Well, then we're good. Are you ready?
Am I writing?
No, are you ready?
Oh, yes, I'm ready.
What's your favorite thing about Greater Prescott?
I love this right now. I love, because I would have never been able to like set stuff up in film. Like that makes me nervous. And I love that you're brand new and you're doing that. And it's just another way to meet people and that type of thing. So I love it.
Thank you.
You're killing it.
What's your favorite restaurant in Greater Prescott?
My favorite restaurant is probably El Gato Azul. My favorite.
What's the number one thing on your Greater Prescott bucket list?
Oh, man. Probably to do I think it's the 19 Hot Shots, the hike. I want to do that. I need to get in shape.
It's challenging.
But I think there's a name for it, but I can't remember. But I want to do that.
That's a great. I actually really, now that you say that, I really want to do that.
Yeah.
Be very memorable.
I know.
To say the least.
Yeah.
What is your favorite all-time house that you have photographed?
Oh, man. There was one I did for one of my clients. It's Lantana Design Studio, Linda Hughes. There was a house out. It was way out. I think it was even like past Paulden. I'm not quite sure. But it was way out there, and it was for some of her clients down in the valley, and it was their vacation home, which blew my mind because it was amazing. But it was cool because on the outside, it was very like barn looking, like that modern barn style. And on the inside, it was just total open floor plan and a fireplace that went from floor to ceiling. Like gorgeous, tons of windows and natural light. That's probably one of my favorite shoots I did with her. That was fun.
You're a natural light girl.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Big time.
I've even commented on one of your posts, I think natural light is the best decoration.
It is.
Hands down.
Yep. And that's one of the things that I pride myself on in my business is you don't need every light on in the house, because let the natural light hit the room how it hits it, and then we'll figure out the rest.
Yeah.
You know.
What are 3 words to describe living in Greater Prescott?
I would say slow pace. I would say welcoming and all seasons. I like that we get every season here. And they're not crazy either. We don't have an super intense winter or a super intense summer. So you kind of just get the best of everything.
I agree. If you weren't doing the photography and website stuff, what type of work would you be doing?
I think I would still... I've always loved working in coffee, being a barista.
Oh, okay.
I was a barista for 4 years before I worked for my stepdad.
Yeah.
So I think coffee. I think whether it would be working towards opening up my own cafe or being a manager somewhere, I love the art of making drinks.
There's the retail side of you.
Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah. I love it. I love just the fact of the craft that goes behind. Not every drink is the same, and every person likes their drink differently and takes their coffee differently. And I loved putting that all together in the cup and just giving that joy away.
Right.
I love it. Yeah. So I would say probably something in the coffee world.
Nice.
Yeah.
Last question. What's your favorite summer activity in Greater Prescott?
Mine would probably be all of the fairs and stuff that we have downtown, like all the arts and stuff and the
Yep.
bands. Just being downtown and being in that communal area where
Yeah.
everyone is just high on life and
Yep.
there's supporting the shops and the music and the food, and I love it. Like all the food trucks and stuff.
Yeah.
That's probably my favorite in the summertime.
I think I still have to pinch myself that is a thing.
Yeah.
Like that you can actually find that sort of thing in
Right.
this day and age.
Yep.
Yep.
I love it. And it's only getting bigger here.
right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love that Prescott is kind of turning a new leaf and focusing more on the younger crowd
I
and
agree.
the more modern things and that type of thing. So I like it. I'm excited for what Prescott's going to turn into someday.
Yeah, we're gonna see some, I think, big and great, and not wholesale changes, but definitely subtle
right.
changes.
Yeah. And I love that in Prescott there's like not huge chains everywhere.
Right.
Like almost everything downtown Prescott is
totally.
locally owned and
Mom and pop.
operated. I love that. I love it.
Yeah, you can still get your Costco
Yep.
and you can still get your Walmart, but
Yeah.
on the whole, yeah, that's one of the things that makes us unique.
Yeah.
Is the mom and pop stuff.
Yep. I love it.
I forgot to ask, what is it about the Greater Prescott area that you really enjoy? You're still here.
I am. I love that you can drive only 20 minutes away and be in a completely different area.
My gosh.
Like, I love, like, yeah, we have the Valley and Flagstaff and Sedona and that type of thing. But I love that even from Prescott to Chino Valley, it's like downtown city life. And then you escape to like farmland, like rolling prairies. Crazy.
Yep.
So I love
and then
that.
you can just drive into the pine trees, into the mountains.
Yep. And then the other way, you have all the pine trees, the lakes. So I feel like we get a lot. The only thing we don't have is an ocean. So
That's why you went to
But-
San Diego growing up.
yeah. But it's cool. I love that we get a little taste of kind of all the features that people
Yes.
want, like on a vacation.
Yeah.
You know, like if you want to go to the pines, go camping. If you want to go to the farm and, you know, hang out with some horses, like you can do that.
Amen.
It's cool.
And if you're willing to put in 2 or 3 hours of a drive,
Yeah.
the world really opens up.
Yeah. It's crazy. I love that even as a city, we're so centrally located to, you know, the Grand Canyon. And then you go to like Joshua Tree. Like we're so close to everywhere.
Yeah.
I love it.
Cool.
Yeah.
I agree. It's one of the reasons we moved up here from the valley is
Oh,
to be
nice.
outdoors, to be able to just drop
Yep.
everything and go somewhere. I mean, the Grand Canyon from my house is like an hour and 58
Oh my
minutes.
gosh,
It's like,
lucky.
what? That's wild.
That is cool. I love that.
Yeah. And we're going to Flagstaff next week. And
Aw.
it's just a cute little town that is a lot different than here.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can go to Sedona. You were just there.
Yes, I was. I love it.
Yeah.
It's very cool.
All right. To wrap things up, tell everyone how they can get in contact with you. And I will also put up all the information.
Okay, cool. So my personal Instagram, if you want to see all things happening in my personal life, it's going to be Kellie Worthen. So it's Kel and then period Worthen. That's WORTHEN. And my business stuff. So my photography business is District 86 Co. And I have a website and I'm on Facebook and Instagram. My Facebook is District 86 Prescott, and that's 86 the numbers.
Okay.
And my Instagram is at District 86 Co. And for my podcast, it's going to be at the Makers Forum Podcast or the makersforumpodcast.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yes.
That's
I know.
awesome. That means you're busy.
All my handles.
Yeah. You guys, if you need anything photography related, I wouldn't say anything, but specifically when it comes to the modern,
Yeah.
the real natural, the trying to capture the true essence of a room or
Right.
a property or something like
Yeah.
that, she's the one to go to. Go check out her website. It's a great where you've got a portfolio of work that
Yeah.
you can check out.
Yes.
And I love your work
Oh, thank you.
because I think it conveys more truth, if you will, of a given room or a given
Yeah.
whatever it is that you're photographing.
Yeah.
It is. Looking at real estate listings at a room that appears to be 20 by 20 that's really about 7 by 7.
Right.
I actually think that's somewhat dishonest in a sense, and I get it, don't get me wrong, but it's just not my cup of tea. And so I appreciate trying to just capture it for what it really is.
Yeah.
Because ultimately that's what people are going to experience. That's what they're going to see.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that that's what you noticed, because that's our goal. So.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you want to start a podcast, Kellie is a huge resource as well. And interesting because you do you do all of it on a computer. I've never done anything on a computer.
Oh, wow.
So like if you put me in your world, I'd have no clue what to do, and vice versa. So there's just many ways to do things.
Yeah.
So contact her, ask questions.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else to wrap up?
I don't think so. Yeah. If you need help with, starting a business, starting a podcast, I would love to help you. I mean, we're all new at some point, and it's just helping the underdog out. So
that's it. You guys, well, number one, thank you so much for your time today.
Yeah,
I'm super excited that we finally got together.
I know. Oh, gosh.
Scheduling is just a big challenge. So I hope you guys got to learn and get a sense of what Kellie did growing up. Just kind of paved the way for her story. And I always find that just so fascinating that you do what you do right now because of the stuff you did when you were little.
I know. It's crazy.
It is. It's weird.
I didn't even it hasn't hit me yet that that's who I am, like why I am who I am right now. Yeah. But I love it. It's cool.
So please go use her for a resource. She's awesome. I'll put up all her information. And thank you very much for watching.
Thank you. Bye.